Hi guys, Sarthik here from Code to Create, and this is our third video in our Java lecture series. Today we're going to be covering Booleans and logic statements. So let's take a quick review of what we learned last video. So last video we learned the two main features of Java, which are variables and operators. We learned that variables are characters or words that are used to store data. Now this data has to have some sort of type, and that's what's called the variable type, and also variables have to have a specific naming convention. So variables, as we learned, you have to first declare the variable's type, int, double, etc. The two main variable types we learned last time were int or double. Then the variable name, which has some naming conventions, and then you have to give it an initial value. Now you can do this in one line or two lines as shown here. Operators are very straightforward. They follow the order operations, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. And also the signs for these operators are very simple and very close to what you would think. The parentheses are just parentheses, exponents are the caret, multiplication is the star, division is the slash, addition is the plus sign, subtraction is the minus sign or dash. So this video we're going to be extending off the variables we learned last time, and we're going to learn about Booleans and logic statements. So what are Booleans? Booleans are just another type of variable. So we learned last time that two of Java's primitive variable types are int and double. Int can store an integer number, and double can store a decimal number. Booleans are just another one of these primitive types, however they store different types of values. The types of values they can store is that they can only store one or two values, which are true or false. Booleans are essentially the logic variable of Java, and they're used to control when or what happens based on if a condition is true or not, which we'll be covering later. So they're the logic variable, and they can either store the value of true or false. Just like any other variable, Booleans are declared the same way. The type, which is going to be Boolean, the name, based on the naming convention, and then equals the initial value, true or false. If you don't initialize it, the default value of the Boolean will be false. So now, let's take a quick look at how this works. So let's make a Boolean variable. So Boolean, my bool, let's rename it, and let's set it equal to true. So now, when we print out my bool, what's going to print out is true, because that's what it evaluates to. Just like if we were to make a variable of type int that would equal 5, and we printed out that variable, it would print out 5. We do the same thing with a Boolean variable and set it equal to true. We run it, it's going to print out true. So, same thing if we set it equal to false. Set it equal to false, it equals false. So basically, the Booleans are the logic variable, and you can set them equal to true or false. However, you can do more things than just setting them equal to true or false, because they apply with conditions that can evaluate to true or false. So these conditions, which we're going to come back to in a second with this application of Booleans, they're called logic statements. So logic statements are where you compare two values using these 6 operators, and these statements evaluate true or false. So the statement, the sign for is equal to is 2 equal signs in a row. Not equals to is an exclamation mark, then an equal sign. Greater than is very similar to what you think. It's a greater than sign. Same with less than, just a less than sign. Greater than or equal to is a greater than sign followed by an equal sign. So once again, very similar to what you would think it would be. And a less than sign is very similar. Less than sign followed by an equal to. So these logic statements, when you compare two numbers, like we're doing right here, we're doing 7 is greater than 5. Now this is a statement that can be evaluated. So when the compiler processes this, it processes whether 7 is greater than 5, and if it is, this statement just gets evaluated true. Same thing if it was this way. It's checking if 7 is less than 5, which is obviously not true. So this statement gets evaluated to false. We can do the same thing using variables. So yeah, so in the bottom you can see, I can't move my cursor because otherwise the little pop-up blocked it up, but in the bottom you see that you have an integer variable 5. So if you check if var equals 5, it's going to evaluate to true, and if var doesn't equal 5, that's going to be false. So logic statements are basically comparative little expressions that evaluate to either true or false. Now, we can use this in application with Booleans to do some pretty fun stuff. So we don't have to just necessarily set my bool to true or false. What if we set my bool to set my bool to 7 is greater than 5. Alright? So now we run this, and it gets evaluated true because 7 is greater than 5. So when the compiler sees that we want to set my bool to this, it evaluates this statement, which gets evaluated at 5. So now what if we change it, where we say 7 is less than 5? That logic statement should evaluate to false, and we print out my bool, it's going to equal false. You can do the same thing within the print statement too, because it's just evaluating a boolean. Say we do 7 equals 5. Remember that if you want to say, if checking if something is equal to something, you have to use double equals. That's going to seem a little bit weird at first, but if you use a single equals, it's actually the assignment operator, which we use for assigning variables. So you have to use the double equals so that it knows you're comparing. Because 7 equals 5 is obviously false. But if we check that 7 doesn't equal 5, that's going to be evaluated true. So this is a simple example of how logic statements work in terms of evaluation and in terms of using them with booleans. So booleans and logic statements come very useful, and then they work hand in hand with something called control statements. Now, control statements are lines of code that disrupt the normal line-by-line reading of the compiler. So far, all the code we've been doing is just code that the compiler reads in sequential order. The compiler initializes this variable, then it prints this out. So it's just reading the code line by line. However, that's not very useful when you're dealing with large tasks or many lines of code, because that's going to be inefficient. It's going to be time sticking to code, and it's just not going to be good overall coding. So that's why we use control statements. And control statements are lines of code which can cause code to be skipped, repeated, or continuously looped over. And they mainly use Boolean values and logic statements that we just learned to determine what to do and how to do this. So the three most common types of control statements are the if statement, the for loop, and the while loop, all of which we're going to be covering in the next 3 videos. So that's it for today. Next time we're going to be doing what we just talked about. We're going to be starting with the if statement, which is our first type of control statement. And until then, you can practice on our website as always, codetocreate.org. If you want to stay updated, please subscribe to this channel, and also you can follow our Twitter, which is in the description. As always, we love constructive feedback, so please comment and tell us anything, any suggestions or anything you have. So thanks, and have a nice day.